Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to us on your favorite social podcast media platform. Geez, I just keep Bob just destroying this. Listen to us where you can find us out there on the podcast systems. We're on all of them. Spotify for podcasters, formerly Anchor, is our preferred one, but we're out there on all the others for you to listen to as well. Check us out on YouTube. We continue to do that. But here we are in a flash. The NCAA tournament is down to the Final Four. Crazy that how that goes, but
weeks, Dave.
Yeah, I know. But it seems like it just disappears in a flash. So we're at the Final Four. Well, we're not at the Final Four. It'd be nice to be at the Final Four in Houston and not here in central New York with the rain and the snow. You hear another voice on this other side there. That's Mike. So hello, Mike. How the heck are you?
Sorry, I forgot you hadn't introduced me yet. My bad. Yo, I'm good, buddy.
So yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about the tournament. So we're going to just kind of get into it overall, and eventually we'll get there to the Final Four. Mike, there we were talking just before we came on. The first weekend, kind of some clunker games, and clunker being, not close, not, dripping with the kind of drama that I think we're used to. Some years that the tournament just has drama game after game after game after game. And that from my perspective, and I think you will agree, this was not the year that happened. Now, look, some great all-time upsets. When you look at teams from New Jersey and everybody going crazy for the Princeton Tigers upsetting number 2 Arizona. I know Mike is probably smarting from that because I do believe, yes, you had picked Arizona into the Final Four on your confidence.
Dave, we're really gonna bracket shame people who picked
Arizona,
legitimate contenders into the Final Four. I mean, how many people had Purdue or Alabama?
But they're not. But those folks are not on Think Tank Sports Podcast. You are
on freaking Zaga. None of that.
On freaking Zaga. Anyways, so we seem to just be kind of going any which way but loose here. So yeah, Princeton's upset of Arizona was huge. Furman with the crazy Kihei Clark, right? So in this game, Virginia turns the ball over 8 times. You turn the ball over 8 times in a college basketball game, you're going to win, right?
Yeah, that's really good.
Right. But it was only 7 until the last little bit. Kihei Clark gets trapped in the corner. This is a 5th-year senior who is like impossible to get the ball from. And
known for his intelligence.
Right. Known for his intelligence. What the hell does he do? He throws the ball up in the air, down away from the basket. Okay. So that.
Right. He thought if he threw it high enough, the clock would expire.
Right. Even though there was like 15 seconds left.
There was a lot more time than he thought, for sure.
And as
it was like 4.1 though, legitimately, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of time left. And the other piece is Virginia had a timeout left.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyways, he flings it up. Furman, grabs it, comes down, pass to the side, 3-pointer, like 2 seconds to go, 1 second, bang. And Furman knocks Virginia right out. Virginia was a 4. Arizona was a 2, as we talked about the Princeton 15/2. So there were some games, that were really nice. And of course, the other New Jersey team, Fairleigh Dickinson taking down Purdue.
I was going to say, we got to go right to the second time ever, a 16 beats 1.
Yeah, and I love the we saw some of the memes of the Maryland Baltimore County, like, hey, we've been waiting for you, waiting for
Yeah, that
somebody
was good.
else. We're out here all by ourselves. But
So
yeah,
Dave,
just
this wasn't just, a 16 beating a one. This is a team from maybe the worst conference in the country
oh
in the
yes.
MEAC, right? And then they were terrible in that worst conference and only, got the bid because they had the Cinderella run in their conference tournament, and then won the playing game. And then their coach infamously said, "The more I watch Purdue, the more I think we can beat them."
Yeah.
Well, you and everyone else in the country, buddy, because everyone thought Purdue was one of the softest number ones maybe ever, and but no one thought it would be this ugly.
No.
This is beyond the pale. So I asked you, Dave, this is one of the questions before we get too many further into the games that I
Yep.
wanted to get to. Remember how we talked about before the show what we were going to do, and then you totally ignored it when we started?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get it back on track.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Very
You
good.
did, but you have that liberty. Was it a coaching failure by Purdue? Or was it just one of those things and one of those times in 2023? You ponder that, you don't even necessarily need to answer that. The bigger question I want to ask is, where are we with college coaches right now overall? Now, we just lost in the last 3-4 years a bunch of them to retirement, will like it or not, with Jay Wright and Coach K and Jim Boeheim, Bill Self, all these guys that have, moved on. So now when you look at the landscape of college basketball, who's going to take up that mantle of coaches? Archie Miller from Xavier, or Matt Painter from Purdue, or who is it? Of course, you think of Izzo and Coach Cal. Those are the names that have been around.
Mm-hmm.
Who else, Dave? Am I missing? Where are all these good coaches to step in? When you think about the history of college basketball, there's always been a depth chart of good coaches, really good coaches, and a few all-timers sprinkled in. I know people are going to say Izzo's going down as an all-timer. That can be debated. It's the one championship argument.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about that some other day. But who else?
Huggy Bear.
Who?
Bob Huggins, Huggy Bear.
Oh, okay.
I believe he is the. I think right now
him.
he has the most wins of any current coach. I believe I heard that.
Okay, that's probably right.
Either during the Big 12 tournament or in the NCAA's. His teams have certainly had
underachieved overall.
Yeah, seriously underachieving. Some of his teams at Cincinnati really should have, done better than they did. And certainly his time at West Virginia. I think it's just, you're going to have at some point these transition times. And we're there, but I think you see like these teams, one team has a great run in the tournament and that coach is gone,
instantly
on to another team instantly. Right. I mean, it's almost as bad as the portal at this point.
No, I agree. So here's a name I didn't mention on purpose and see if it popped to your mind, and it didn't, but that doesn't mean you disrespect this person, but Mark Few from Gonzaga.
Mark Few, and what was the other one I was thinking of?
Larinaga, Miami. I like the guy, but is he an all-time coach? No. Calvin Sampson.
Oh, no, Calvin Sampson, his teams choke over and over and over. He's not an all-time coach. There's
Pearl. He's kind of bouncing around out there.
Yeah, I mean, but that's I think when you look at the coaches, that's the level that's where you're at. Right. Certainly Mark Few has to be right up there.
Mark Few, I know he gets banged around a lot for not winning the tournament, but he built his program out of nothing, and they are consistently getting 1, 2, or 3 seeds every year. Yeah, making a deep run, and you can say they play in a crappy conference because they do. It's only them and St. Mary's that only ever seem to make it out of there, and all of that. But Mark Few should be included in the top coaches currently. That being said, that's a pretty thin roster of top coaches. Dan Hurley now has to be right up there.
Yeah.
After
Oh,
this
yeah. I mean,
run,
he's, those are the things you start to look at. Who are these, that
making the ascension, right?
next level of coaches. And I think that's where we're at. You see, Rick Pitino goes to St. John's.
I was going to ask you think that's going to affect his legacy as an all-time coach, or is his discretion already taken care of that?
It's so interesting because I still think, but excuse me. You see all of the commentary about, oh, he's going to St. John's. He's going to build the program back up. He's a great coach. He does this, he does that. There's no mention of the transgressions at all, which I think is interesting to say the least. But, he's there, he's successful, but he's 71, 70
Right.
years old. So, I mean, he's not up and coming by any stretch.
Right.
You look at Ed Cooley from Providence. Now he goes to Georgetown after they fired Patrick Ewing. And how sad is that, by the way, from a Big East perspective, that in the last 5 years, you have seen Patrick Ewing at Georgetown not really be successful, get fired. Chris Mullen at St. John's, not be really successful, gets fired. You think there's a lesson there. Now with Ewing, I think it's a little different because he coached in the NBA as an assistant for a long time. I really thought he would do well in college.
Yeah, he had a good reputation in the NBA.
Yeah, and so maybe that's where he needs. Maybe that's where he needs to end up. But yeah, a lot of movement with the coaches, and yeah,
for sure. Just an interesting thought, exercise about the coaches in the NCAA and where we are. And part of the answer for me is some of them have moved. Billy Donovan went on to the NBA and was successful. Brad Stevens went on to the NBA and was successful. Those two in particular would be high up in the college basketball hierarchy of coaches if they hadn't left for the NBA. So that's part of it as well. Those two have had the kind of success that is rare when you transfer from college to the pros, especially in basketball.
So watch this. I'm going to bring it all the way back to your initial question about Purdue. Was it a coaching thing? I don't think so. One of the concerns with Purdue going in, and I think we had even talked about this, and I had said, I think they're going to be fine, was the outside shooting from the guards. And the guard play has been inconsistent. 19%, 5 of 26 for threes in this game against Fairleigh Dickinson. In a game they lose by 5. They had some good open looks in this game, Mike, and just couldn't knock them down. And so, they got out. Oh no, they won the rebounding battle. Which it
was funny. Is like they were too small. It reminded me, with Edie in their front court, like King Kong knocking the planes off the building. They're like, I can't get to him, and he's getting frustrated. It's like, He didn't get in like huge foul trouble necessarily, like Drew Timmy did or some of these other guys later. But still, it was like you can almost hear him yelling, too small, too small. But I digress.
So,
can we talk about Tennessee manhandling Duke? One of my favorite games of the tournament early round.
Yeah. And I sadly, I'm trying to think. I did not see a lot of this game.
You were traveling or something. You were out of pocket for something.
Yeah. And so I really had kind of wished I had seen
it was just men and the boys, they use their fouls wisely, I guess. And in Duke's had a bunch of younger freshmen and undeveloped bodies, and it was literally men versus boys on some level physically, and it took a toll on Duke. And the free throws, everyone said Filipowski, came out of the game looking soft. I didn't think so. He got beat up early, got a gash under his eye, stayed in the game, took big shots, did everything he could for his team, had literally no help. So I thought he was getting an unfair rap. But
Yeah.
Tennessee, just an old-fashioned men versus boys matchup against the mighty Duke Blue Devils.
Yep. Just looking at some stats there. I mean, so Derek,
Tennessee made like every shot they took too, especially in the first half, I believe, if
yeah,
memory serves. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, 42% from three for Tennessee, which is great. Duke only 27%. Filipowski though 0 for 5 from three, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 4 fouls, 4 turnovers. Derek Lively, what a crazy line for him, Mike. 36 minutes, doesn't attempt a shot or a free throw, no points, yet ends up with 11 rebounds.
Right.
I mean, but this is one of your starters, no points. He doesn't even attempt a shot.
Where is he? Where's the help?
You like the 11
there
rebounds,
was a guard for them that played the nice game, probably their best scorer. I think he scored 31 or so for Duke.
Nobody came close to that. No. Jeremy Roach and Proctor maybe is the guy you're thinking of. Yes, he had 16.
Oh, that's not 31.
Yeah, well, they only scored 52. I mean, it was 65-52. So a bit,
it was a rock fight, wasn't it?
A bit of a clunker, but that's the kind of team that Tennessee is. That's what they've done to teams all year.
Speaking of rock fights, this whole controversy, Dave, if you caught wind of this with the basketballs early, especially, they switched up the basketballs for the tournament and the teams didn't know it, showed up for shoot around. Balls felt a little bit lighter than what they've been using all year. And as a shooter, you were a prolific shooter every day, as we know. Double dip Dave was before the 3-point line. He would just double dip every time.
Oh yeah. You know it, baby.
You know it. But
what is that? Wait, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the Patriots and Deflategate here? The balls are lighter.
A little bit light. They had 6 wedgies in the first round, Dave. You know what I mean by a wedgie? Someone takes a shot and the ball.
Yes, no, I know. I watched and I literally thought it happened in every game that I watched.
6. They hit a record-setting 6 in the first round.
6,
and it was because of the change of basketball.
Wow. So I watched, for some reason, I didn't see the Duke game. I think it was because it was on CBS. And all right, now I'm going to go off on this for a moment because this really irritated me and I have the platform to do it.
You go off, King.
Yes, I believe this game was on CBS and CBS, you can kiss my ass. I'm just going to be quite frank about it. So you have the NCAA March Madness app, which you can watch all the games for free, right? Oh, no, not so fast, my friend. You can't watch the CBS games on there because
Paramount Plus
has Paramount Plus. Wait a second now. You also have to have Paramount Plus Premier to watch those games. So you don't have CBS. Like if you've cut the cord with cable, you literally could not watch the CBS games unless you had Paramount Plus Premier for $9.99 a month.
Yeah.
So again,
no free month to start off.
No, I will say the same thing I just said. CBS, you can kiss my ass. But anyways, despite all that, I watched a lot of basketball over this first weekend. I never heard anything about the balls being lighter, and I just kept seeing it, the wedgie, as you have dubbed it, and I
didn't dub it, but
it just it makes so much sense now that was happening. I just thought it was just crazy that the balls were wedging themselves in there.
Dave, let's get to the basketball on the court for this past weekend.
Yeah, can we?
Elite games. Well, I particularly want to talk about these Elite 8 games, but you start wherever you like.
Yeah. So you look at the games. One game that absolutely stood out to me that I thought was one of the best games of the tournament. Kansas State, Michigan State on Thursday night. There in Madison Square Garden. Quite honestly, a lot of the games had half court feels to them, not a lot of up and down, not a lot of scoring. This game was anything but.
Right.
98-93 Kansas State in overtime. Just huge buckets. This is, Marquise Noel's homecoming, if you will. The senior from New York City comes out, and this is his 20-point, 19 assist, 5-steal game, breaks the record for assists in an NCAA tournament game, which was 18. Just tremendous. The guy's, he's my height. He's 5'8", he's 160. It's
We're going to
basically
get to Mr. Noel
like
in the next
me.
game.
Oh, yes. And I have some thoughts on him as well. But this was just a great game. One of those afterwards, Seth Davis says, this is a game where it's sad to see somebody lose because it was just such
Did you see Mr. Tom Izzo's post-game remarks?
I did not.
He said, yeah, it was a great game, but boy, K-State, they made a lot of lucky shots. Some of those shots that went in, boy, really lucky. And he hit that lucky button like 3 times in the interview. So,
well, you look at
not exactly
magnanimous. He hurts his ankle, right? And he's out for a bit. He comes back in like one of the first plays. It kind of the pass goes out and he turns around and grabs it and chucks it at the basket and it goes off the glass for 3. That was definitely lucky. If you want to use that one, but I thought that was up to that point. So this was last Thursday. I thought that was the best game of the tournament.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're right. It was definitely well played and high scoring, like you said, and one of the few non-rock fights in the whole tournament. And then probably they got surpassed that night by Gonzaga and UCLA.
Yes.
Who played, just a classic rematch. Remember, they were the ones in 2021 that had, back and forth, and Suggs, the guard, hits the big shot and jumps up on the table afterwards for Gonzaga. But then they go on to lose to Baylor in the championship game. But, this was a Drew Timme game, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you have a stat line there? Is it 35?
I thought he had 38.
38, right. And 18 rebounds for
36 points. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't read my own
writing. For Drew Timme. Yeah, they're down. They're down double digits in the second half. They storm back to get the lead, and then UCLA comes, that Gonzaga went ahead enough. UCLA was down 8 with 1:05 to go and took a lead with 12 seconds left. I mean, that's even just that ending is enough to tell you how great this game was. I
just
feel
two
like
teams that know each other in and out, back and forth, and
lots of players left over from the game from a couple years ago that Mike mentioned.
Right. So great basketball game for sure. And Gonzaga, pulls it out and goes on to the Elite Eight. So, what's next, buddy?
I'm just trying to look and see. I guess you look at the Friday games. Certainly storyline there is the number one seed.
The witch is down.
Right. Yes. Alabama goes down. Yeah. Houston goes down. So there were 5. These are 5 seeds. Go ahead.
First time ever, there's no 1 seeds in the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Or forward. So.
Yep.
Chaos on chaos.
But yeah, so I mean, these are 5 seeds. It's not at this point a 5 seed beating a 1 is not crazy. I think it was made more crazy because of the stat you just mentioned, because of the fact that when you look at Houston, they hadn't given up this many points. I think I saw since 2019. And I had texted some folks. I thought Houston would lose because they were not going to be able to score in this tournament. I actually had them losing earlier in the tournament. That wasn't the case in this game. This was the case where their defense just let them down, and Miami scored 89 points on them. As far as that goes, San Diego
Houston's best player, right? Sasser, has been hurt on and off, and I just don't think he was ever quite right. as far as scoring. So that didn't help them at all.
Yeah, Sasser with 14, 4 for 12 in this game.
Right. San Diego State, against Alabama, they set the precedent for how they're going to play defense for the rest of the tournament. They are ugly to watch, but they are defensive oriented, especially shutting down the 3-point shot.
Yep.
Superstar slash accomplice to murder Brandon Miller, just the worst game of his illustrious career at Alabama. 9 points. He goes 2 for 19 or 3 for 19 shooting, 1 for 10 from 3, and just was not there when his team needed him the most in this season. So I gotta say, good riddance for Nate Oates. Get his clown butt out of here. Get Brendan Miller onto the NBA. Someone put out a fake tweet that they needed Alabama fired Nate Oates after the game, and people were falling for it for a little bit. And they said the statement was, after everything that he's done wrong, losing to a 5 seed just won't do, or something like that.
God. The other one, Mike, that I saw that was hilarious, little meme was something along the lines of, you can, the investigation is complete and you can write off Brandon Miller because he was not the shooter.
True.
But I think for me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, real quick, just on Alabama, real quick. Nick Saban, screw you too. You snuck in the back door, took a pot shot at your fellow coach at Alabama. I'm taking shots at Nate Oates because I have a podcast and I'm not on the staff and he's not a coworker of mine. You came in the back door, take a cheap shot and leave and think you're on the high road. You were not on the high road.
Yeah, and the cheap shot being, there was discussion, right? The player from the football team that was doing 140 miles an hour.
Right.
And they get Nick Saban on there and he says, this is not the case of wrong place, wrong time, which was a direct slap at Nate Oates, who said wrong place, wrong time with Brandon Miller, which clearly it was not when he's driving his friend's car.
He said Nate Oates' name, and there's no more clear indication who he was talking about than using that phrase. Yeah,
yes,
for sure. So, but
one
nobody's
other thing,
clean in there. Nobody's clean.
No.
Yeah.
The other thing with San Diego State, Alabama, they played a great first half. San Diego State, Alabama has 23 points. And Alabama came out start to second half and it looked like they were going to run away with the game, Mike. I mean, they put a nice run on. I actually, at that point, had to put my daughter to bed. She's 8 years old. It's like almost 9 o'clock, even though it's a Friday, she needs to go to bed. And I went to bed thinking, well, it's it. I mean, Alabama has, taken the reins. And then when I came back down, the game was over. And I had looked at the stats, and literally as I had left and turned the game off was when San Diego State went on the game-changing 12-0 run to totally flip everything around. So that's just extremely shocking from that perspective, because it totally felt like that game was getting out of hand. Alabama was starting to really just show their, I would say, superior physical nature, physical gifts. But San Diego State, give them credit. I mean, obviously, we're still talking about
them. On, right? Real quick, Princeton, heck of a run, just ran into a Creighton team that had superior size and just nothing they could do to combat it. There was just no game plan good enough. But good on Princeton. Keep up the good work, boys. But let's go, Dave. I got to talk about the UConn Huskies real quick. I've been on them all year. And they've done nothing but come into this tournament and just destroy everybody. The only one that's kind of lived up to their seed. Well, I guess Texas has as well. But the UConn Huskies eliminate Gonzaga on Saturday. 82-54, and it wasn't that close.
No.
I was grateful I was able to go to bed at with like 7 minutes left.
It's funny. That is right at the time that I went to bed. I said, they're up 30. Gonzaga is not coming back.
And then the subs that were coming in, it was like, there's the bench.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch 7.5 minutes of garbage time.
Thank you, Marv Albert.
But what a great, well-rounded basketball team. Deep, guards are strong, ball handling, and the two guys in the middle just complement each other so well. You take one out and the other one comes in and he's a different set of problems. The 7'2" kid, that's the freshman whose name I can't pronounce, Kleinbaumer or whatever. His footwork for a big man, super impressive, Dave.
Clinging.
Yeah. Yep. His big man footwork, like even Barkley, get Barkley and the Jet and those guys off the college broadcast. Enough. There was the funny gimmick a couple of years ago, but there's enough. They don't follow it all year.
Nope. And until the problem is until and I think they have a contract with TBS until that happens.
Right. They're just going to be there.
They're just going to be there. Yeah. I completely agree.
But even those guys were impressed with this kid's footwork for such a young kid. So anyway, I just think UConn has been better than advertised, and I was, super heavy on them, and I thought maybe I was biased because I'd watched them so much, but they appear to be incredible, and they took out Drew Timme and Gonzaga easily. Showed their seamy underbelly, which is pretty much if you neutralize Timme, they're done. So
I mean, you can talk about neutralizing Timme. He made a terrible play 3 minutes into the second half. Not quite a fast break, but Gonzaga is a pace team, right? They lead the country in points per game and all of that. They want to get up and down the floor, and they get the ball down to Timme, and he starts driving into the basket. And the defender is already down there, and Timme tries to sidestep him. It's just a really bad play. They don't need to do it. He collides with him, clearly puts himself in a bad spot, charged, third foul, right to the bench. He's there for a few minutes, and then his teammates didn't help. I mean, they were just god awful. They couldn't hit anything from three. Everything was a brick. I thought in the time that Timme was out, Gonzaga just continued to chuck up threes. And it didn't make sense to me by the 13.
And they weren't even in rhythm of the offense. It was
they were not. But at the 13-minute mark, Connecticut was already in the bonus.
Right.
So I just, I was sitting here saying they got to ugly this game up a bit. You got to drive to the basket, get some fouls, stop the clock, make some foul shots. Yeah. None of that happened. They just kept chucking threes, and Connecticut just kept making threes, and that lead got big in such a hurry. And they bring.
I mean, Connecticut cleared the bench, but they're so deep, Dave.
Yeah,
they're deep. It's impressive. But let's go to the other game.
Oh yeah,
that night.
The game that was on earlier. Yeah,
the Florida Atlantic Owls versus the Kansas State Wildcats, and this game was so good, so intense. I don't think it was particularly good basketball, and let me know when you want to talk about the last play, because I'd love to break that down with you.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this game first?
So it's interesting. This was one of the first games I had been able to watch pretty much full on with my two boys. So we got 15. Josh, who's a huge basketball guy and plays, and Brady, who's almost 18, which is crazy to think about. Yes. Senior in high school, and they're watching this game, and I like Kansas State. I just, you just heard me wax poetic about my good friend there, my little point guard guy. And
no.
Yes. And so I'm rooting for him, and immediately the boys start rooting for Florida Atlantic because I'm rooting for Kansas State. Totally fine. Set up a nice, interesting dynamic in the home on Saturday night. And What was interesting though, and they picked up on it right away, and I think this has been a mark, and we'll get to the Sunday game, has been a mark of the tournament, is how terrible the officiating has been. It's just been god awful. We talk about it with every sport. This game I thought was so crazy. There were plays where Kansas State had just knocked Florida Atlantic guys literally to the ground. There were multiple times and just no fouls called, and they go down the other way, and somebody gets, somebody blows on somebody's ear and it's a foul. Just very, very inconsistent. But despite all of that, a tremendous basketball game, 79-76. The big guy there, which I and I haven't seen Florida Atlantic play a lot. And my boys hadn't either. But this Golden kid couldn't believe, like, when he was in there, they were a totally different team. Kansas State could not get inside. He's, making big plays, 14 points, 13 rebounds, 6 of 11 from the field, 6 offensive rebounds of those 13. They were just a different team, and he was dominating, but they took him out for long stretches. I mean, he only played 29 minutes, and I kept saying, is he in foul trouble? No, he only had 1 foul. Thought maybe it was a stamina thing or whatnot.
Right.
But he was dominating, and it just was shocking to me that they didn't play him more in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to trust the coach, especially like you said, they're not seated. Well, they're not on TV. First of all, 30-3, a 9 seed. Were they
35-3?
Well, 30-3 regular season.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
9 seed. Is that the committee saying that's the highest a mid-major is ever going to get? With they're in that Conference USA, right? Or whatever's left of it.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, there's
right, but all the teams that were
overseeded,
these guys are underseeded. Now, I mean, that's obviously easy for me to say.
Sure,
but I guess it's something that they're going to have to take into consideration going forward, because this team is clearly better than a 9 seed.
Yeah,
and took this Wildcat team, for all it was worth. And Dave, the last play, your buddy.
Oh God.
Well, first of all, they kept cutting to his twin brother and
yes,
a couple of high school teammates that we know from college basketball in the stands.
Yep.
The one kid, it was on Illinois last year, Kofi, whatever his last name is, I can't remember.
It's pronounced Coburn, but it's spelled Cockburn. And actually, funny story, I heard the previous week in the studio, one of the guys brought it up. It may have been Kenny Smith.
He's usually pretty in tune with New York City basketball.
Right, but he said Cockburn, and then I think Clark Kellogg was like, well, Coburn, and it was like they were all snickering. Anyways, continue. So they're showing those guys.
Oh, family show. I didn't get it.
Yep.
They kept showing those guys, and they're all making the ice water in the veins gesture, and the kid was having a heck of a tournament and a heck of a game. And Dave, his team down 3. They come out of a timeout.
Yep.
Season, trip to the Final Four on the line, chance for even more immortality. And what does he do? He passes the ball, Dave.
Yeah.
He passes it. Now, you can have any kind of criticism you want of passing it. He's the alpha male. He needs to take the shot, period. Yes. But you say, oh, well, Michael Jordan passed to Steve Kerr and Paxton. There's been others. This was a terrible basketball play as well. Yep. He passed it further away from the basket.
Right. Still behind the 3-point line. Yep.
Deep behind the 3-point line. And now time's running out on your season, on your team's life. And then I don't know why he looked so dumbfounded after. Did he not understand the clock? Did he not understand the game? I don't understand. And I tried to look for comments, and there really wasn't any afterwards. He was very emotional, obviously. And the kid played a great game, and this will be a learning experience, great tournament for him. But wow, was that a bad mistake?
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I find, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I think it's an
Yes,
important point. So I had
of
mentioned, I
course.
thought the Michigan State, Kansas State was the best game of the tournament, and then the 98, 93 in overtime. One of the things that Kansas State did very well in that game was the motion offense, which opened up so many great passing lanes, I think, for
Right,
Marquise Noel, why he gets 19 assists in that game.
right.
Well, if you watched this game, like the last 8 minutes, and we know, Keontae Johnson was in foul trouble and eventually, fouls out, 9 points in 18 minutes. And he was really a
It's just too
non-factor, and
bad. Yeah.
which is
Great story,
unfortunate.
terrible ending.
Right. But nobody else was in the offense. So what do they do the last 8 minutes? I'm sure you noticed this, Mike. It was just all Marquise Noel. You've
Yes.
got him at the top, the four
Pick and
guys,
roll occasionally,
like
clean out
just
though.
spread out,
Yeah,
and he's taken all the shots.
right.
And literally 21 of them.
And I know everyone thought they were being smart. We'll set up a play for somebody else. But as my granddaughter makes an appearance on the podcast, vocally. But I just think it was just so. I got to blame the coach, right?
Oh no, I'm all over
Or
the
you
coach
blame
on
the
this.
player.
Oh yeah, no, I this is the thing is I think they lost this game because they lost their offensive identity in the second half.
Right.
There were other guys that had, good games against Michigan State and in other games in the tournament, but they just decided to say Marquise Noel is the guy and he's going to have the ball and he's going to make all the plays. But when the other four guys are just standing around and not moving at all, that was, to me,
Right.
that was a huge key in their Michigan State win. So
No,
I just thought it was, I just thought it was awful, just awful. And so it's tough.
And then he goes into the locker room of FAU after and is like, you tough sons of guns, and then you can beat anybody in this country. Trying to be like junior Coach K or something. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish there, but he made sure they had a camera on him to watch it. So
Yeah.
Think what you want about that. But I just thought, I think you made some great points there, Dave. So I don't want to belabor that anymore. The other games Sunday.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, two great games.
the ending of San Diego State Creighton.
Yep.
I
gotten a
disagree
lot of media attention today.
First of all, tremendous play on Creighton's part to get ahead.
Tie it.
Tie it, right.
Yeah. They were
Where
down
they
to,
had
you're talking about the
over
steal.
top,
Yeah,
the
they're
top.
trying to lob it over and he just picks it off and lays it up.
Yeah, tremendous play. But when San Diego State, I disagree. I didn't hear a lot of the national media. That was a foul. Creighton, I mean, how can they complain? Yes, and maybe it was like after the ball left his hand technically, but the whole time the Creighton kid had his left arm on the hip and then he pushed, when the San Diego State kid jumped to make the shot. It's a foul. I've seen less let go in the last moments of a game. I understand that sentiment, but you fouled.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a complaint they can have. Now, what do you think about that portion of that? So San Diego State drives in and puts up a shot that doesn't go in, but they call it foul. And
1.2 seconds left in a tie game.
Right. The kid from San Diego hits the second free throw.
Second one, yep.
And he was so emotional after, Dave. It would have destroyed him. I said he was so happy afterwards.
Yeah.
Just crying on national TV. But anyway, and Creighton's called for a foul, and they're crying, and a lot of people were at the time. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so difficult. But listening to some of the national media today, the argument is in a tie game, that late, you're coming down to the final seconds, it always, the officials, you hear them year after year say, you don't want to be the story. You don't want to, make this, unless it's egregious, you just can't call that in a tie game. You're going to end somebody's season, potentially. You have, overtime, 5 more minutes right there. So the argument from the national media is you've got to be a little more aware of the situation.
Right.
And this is a tough one because I can go back and forth on this too. But I think it's, the challenge is, does he hand check him? Yes. But they called 11 fouls the entire game. Hand checking was not being called. They were letting them play from that perspective.
And that really is the crux of the problem.
And that's the bigger piece, right?
And that's how McDermott should be flipping out.
Yes.
There's a coach that I'm surprised hasn't moved on to another program.
Maybe he will after this year.
Maybe, who knows? But then to make matters worse, I thought they got screwed on the inbounds play afterwards. So 1.2 seconds left, as you say. Creighton's got to go all the way down the length of the court to get a shot off. So their one player throws the ball, Christian Laettner style baseball pass. One thing I did learn, Dave, he did step on the line when they reviewed it, but that line he's allowed to step on. That line is out of bounds. He needs to stay out of bounds. If you think about it in the reverse, if you're inbounds and your foot even
touches the line, you're out.
That's out of bounds.
Yep.
So he's entitled to step on that part of the line. Gene Sarator taught me that. So the more you know.
Dun,
dun, dun. The more you know.
Yeah. So he throws the pass down.
San Diego State tips it. The ball lands. So the clock starts at 1.2 when the ball's tipped.
Yep.
And then when the ball hits the ground, the clock is supposed to stop. And of course, no human is going to be accurate doing all that quickly, hit and start stop. So when they reviewed it on the telecast, and when Gene Sarator, aforementioned authority, reviewed it,
last time I checked, he does NFL games, by the way. I don't know why he gets in there doing basketball, but I'm just like
the name rules next to him.
Okay, so you're a rules expert. It's not your sport. Yeah. Anyways, you may continue.
So thank you. Appreciate you. So Gene Sarator and I agreed that there's between 0.3 and 0.4 seconds left, which allow Creighton a catch and shoot out of bounds play.
Can they do it at 0.3?
0.3.
Okay.
Is the cutoff.
Okay. I was thinking it was 0.4, but I
Right. Is a tip. Right.
Yep.
Either way, it's taken a lot longer than should be, and all of a sudden the refs come over and say the game's over, and like the most awkward ending to this game ever, because no one, like, they have celebrated, then the review, and in my opinion, Creighton should be mad about the lack of time versus foul call. The foul was a foul. It got called at a really inopportune time in the game.
Yeah,
and I understand the sentiment of let them play and let the kids decide it. Generally, that's my thought too.
Mm-hmm.
They did foul. The other thing seems like you reviewed it. You took the time to review it. Should have been cleared up fairly easily. So, not that, who knows, what would have happened if they did get an inbounds play, but it would have been nice, even more drama to see them.
Sure, absolutely. You take it and say, hey, that would have been something. Yeah. And for them to come out and just say, oh, well, game's over. And then you hear the officials afterwards saying, they ruled that the ball, the clock expired and then the ball hit the ground.
Right. And then everyone
but that didn't get relayed to anybody at the end of the game. This all came out after the fact, after the officials were being spoken to, players and coaches. They saw a thing that, the San Diego State coaches, is in the huddle, drawing up stuff on the board, trying to, figure out how they're going to defend the inbounds play.
Right. Right.
So he didn't even know. And then the players are jumping around celebrating. He was like, wait, what happened?
What happened? Right. His coaches are hugging him, and he's like, what?
This is the head coach of one of the teams playing, folks.
The team that won, right?
And the team that won, who didn't even know that they had won.
All right, we're getting a little long in the tooth here,
Yes.
buddy. Miami takes out Texas. Great game. Miami's a very good basketball team. I like them, coming into this tournament as well as one of the teams that I liked.
Yes, you're the only team that you picked correctly to get to the Final Four, I might add.
I didn't have UConn in the Final Four.
No, you did not. You had Kansas.
Yeah.
Arizona versus Duke, Miami versus Kansas, and you had your Duke, Kansas, 1991.
Yes.
Sorry,
rematch.
90. Yeah, 91 rematch.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
It's okay. I only had UConn in the Final Four, so all of my teams lost as well.
Yeah, you and everybody else. People are winning pools with not having, any picks in the Final Four. But.
Oh, I gotta say this today. I was listening to the Mad Dog on the way home, and he was talking about the brackets and having FAU and San Diego State, and he said, if you're picking those teams, well, you should be on the radio. You should be in the media. But I have to be honest in saying that's because the only way that you did that is you're picking cities and you're picking colors.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, real quick, if you bet $100 and you had all 4 Final Four teams correct for $100 bet, the payoff is $8.1 million.
What $1 million?
Yeah. So
that's one I would take.
Yeah. If anyone tells you they did that, they're lying to you. Dave, I love Jim Larinaga and this Miami team. They're big and strong. They do have scorers, and they look like a traditional, ACC powerhouse type team. So we get an awkward Final Four, to say the least, right?
Yeah, an awkward one, but an exciting one. And I think, again, as we talked at the beginning, before the tournament started, where this is a wide open tournament and anybody could win. Well,
right.
We've got a 4, 2 5s, and a 9. We have 3 teams who have never been to the Final Four that have all made it this year. And then I saw this one, Mike, and this was crazy. UConn, their 4 national titles. I don't know if you saw this. Their 4 national titles, all won in Texas.
Oh, really?
All 4 of them.
That is crazy.
That's nuts. And I gotta go back at the Mad Dog quickly on this. He was talking about how, CBS is really going to struggle with this FAU San Diego State is the early game, the 6:09 game on Saturday. I completely disagree. Disagree. Everybody is always saying the underdogs. Oh, it's so great. I can't stand when the Blue Bloods, and it's Kansas and Duke and Kentucky and all these. None of those teams are there. You can make an argument. UConn is a little bit of a blue
blood, right?
Semi-blood, whatever you want to do. They do have blue in their color. Okay. I completely disagree. I think this is a super exciting game to watch. You got, the pace of FAU versus the slow it down rock fight for San Diego State, complete clash of styles. And really that, the 2 kind of big underdogs, if you will. I just completely disagree. I think it'll be interesting to see what the ratings are like. But I think this is going to get a lot, because I think you're going to get the casual fan is going to really watch this game.
I think you're probably closer to right than he is. But if you really want to get back at Chris Mad Dog Russo, go on Twitter and find the video of him dancing at the Bruce
Springsteen concert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he has no shame. He's been
an Elaine Bennett
forever.
If I ever saw one.
Yeah. For sure. The other matchup, obviously Miami, UConn in the later early odds.
People are saying this is like the national championship game default, but I think you're right. I think any of these 4 have a shot. But anyway, the early odds.
Yeah, early odds, San Diego State by 2, UConn by 5.5. That feels like a big number. But I would say, as we said, I mean, UConn has blown everybody out. I mean, they've won every game by 15 or more, I believe, in the tournament. they're playing they are playing the best basketball. But when you look at these other three teams, they're all playing the best basketball they've played all year.
Listen, hold on to your hats for that UConn Miami game, because Miami is not going to be able to match their size inside. So they're going to try to outscore them, which they're capable of.
Yes.
So they're going to just be all offense, run threes. Don't even deal with the inside, almost punt on trying to rebound, or, they're certainly not going to spend a lot of extra energy there.
No. And if, the Miami,
and they'll give up twos for a three.
Yeah. How they've won has been their success from the perimeter. If they make their threes, I mean,
if
they don't
styles make fights. This is quite a mismatch of styles. So
yes. So let's hope. I think there's the potential for two great games.
Do you have a feel who you think is going to win?
I can't root against UConn. I literally they're big guys, and I hear what you're saying about Miami, and I think Miami is playing great. I just think over the course of an entire game, UConn's depth, their size.
I haven't mentioned my boy Andre Jackson either from Amsterdam, New York, who's had a tremendous tournament and done very well.
He's been unbelievable.
Very, very fine.
Yep. Some of my Syracuse buddies via text yesterday, one of them put me on the spot and said, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win the two games, and who's going to win? And I said, I think it's going to be UConn and FAU. And I think it's going to be UConn that wins. I just think they're just on another level. And I could be wrong. Again, we said any four of these teams, but that's my thoughts. Mike, what say you?
I also say UConn. I do believe that FAU has better than a puncher's chance against San Diego State's defense. So I'm excited also to see that matchup. Like you said, both games are going to be styles make fights. And unfortunately, the third team on the court, we have to say it, bad officiating all tournament. You never know how they're going to affect these games. If they start ticky-tack fouling or, leaning one side or the other. Now, remember also, if you're in a gambling kind of mood, unders in the first half, where they're playing is not going to have the same shooter's background as they've played, their whole lives. So, pretty cavernous. And any Final Four, the early shooting is going to be rough, plus all the adrenaline and all that stuff too these kids are going to have. So I think it's going to be a super entertaining. I stomped for the Blue Bloods going into the tournament. I really wanted a couple of them to break through, even though I say I root for chaos. In this tournament in particular, I think it's better when there's some Blue Bloods. Mm-hmm. But that being said, this is a great, if you're paying attention just a little bit, a great cross section of all of college sports in Division I. So let's celebrate that and celebrate these kids that, even though they might make mistakes like Kay Clark and these other guys down the stretch, they are only 18 to 22 years old, even though they're making more money than we'll ever see in a lifetime already. Give them a break. They're just trying hard. While you do that, enjoy yourselves the Final Four, and we will certainly be watching and reporting back to you on all of our podcast delivery systems, as well as social media here at Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for 5. Good night.
See ya.